Here we go, man. Let's do this. How you doing, everybody? It's me, San Martin Rodriguez, and I'm here at the Prescott Executive Studios, and we are on the scene late this afternoon. So hopefully you guys can tune in because we want you to know what is happening with our creeks because it's very important. With that being said, let's get this party started. You ready? Let's go. Yeah. a little fresh, so clean. Okay, everybody, this is actually a late afternoon vlogcast, so hope you guys can tune in, but you definitely want to go ahead and stick around and listen to what we have going. So without further ado, tell everybody who you are and what makes you famous.
Oh, well, I don't know if I'm famous, but I am Michael Bird. I'm the executive director for Prescott Creeks Preservation Association, one of our local not-for-profit organizations.
This is one of the biggest ideal conversation I was sharing with you right prior to the actual, getting this live broadcast going, is that I actually grew up on the creeks. The backyard was literally our yard, and it was the creek. My days on end would be down there catching crawdads, throwing rocks into the creek there, and every once in a while I try to dam some stuff up just to go ahead and listen to the water and watch the water do its ripples, do little leaf races. Man, I tell you what, I'm actually going back in my time right now. I'm like, man, you know what else I used to do, and it was actually fun. But this is fast forward, I think 30 years, and here we are. Yep. And you brought up some really cool things that you guys have done in general. So briefly, tell everybody what this organization is and what the whole reason for it.
Yeah, well, we have a mission to achieve healthy waters and clean water, healthy watersheds and clean waters in central Arizona. So it's pretty broad mission statement. And I think one of the things that we're probably most known for is the Granite Creek Cleanup event that happens every April. That's coming up this year on April 20th. We ask people to pre-register for that. They can find out about it on our website, prescottcreeks.org. We're still collecting sponsors to make that all happen. But in addition to the cleanup event, which we actually inherited from a city-sponsored committee, we have worked on surface water quality issues here in the community. All of our creeks are listed as impaired, which is a fancy way to say polluted. And then we are
let's stop real quick.
Yeah,
there is no fancy way of saying polluted. And I don't even know why we would water it down, as really how important the waterways are. Yeah. Especially in our area in Prescott. I mean, everybody always talks about water, so to kind of like wash it down is like, why? Why would we want to wash it down? And I'm not trying to be like condescending with the words that you use, but I feel like it's serious, And technically, I think that's the reason why we're here today.
It is. Well, and I think, one of the things that maybe a lot of people don't know or we all forget is Prescott is where it is because of Granite Creek and the water that it afforded the early settlers. And so I think over the 20th century, as technology came in, we didn't have to interact as closely with the creeks. And they kind of became these things that got shoved out of the way and people weren't thinking about. But now things have changed and we value our creeks for recreation as well as the water that they supply to us. We all want the water to come out of the tap when we turn it on.
Yep.
And so keeping our creeks in good shape is a great way to keep the water in good shape as well. Make sure it keeps flowing.
And once again, these are the conversations that a lot of people don't have and want to have. And then if they do have, it's really honestly, we don't have water. And it just goes silent. Yeah. And I've talked to a few water experts in regards to what is happening in our world. Do we have enough water? Do we have enough sufficient water to go ahead and handle this population was one of the biggest questions. Yeah. But let's face it, if we have contaminated water, there is really honestly no water anyway. I mean, we could filter it and do whatever we need, but are we getting the nutrients that we're supposed to be getting from it, right? So anyways, these conversations could really go for days on end, and I think I have so many questions. And if you guys have questions out there, please be free to go ahead and ask those questions right now in your comment box, wherever you're seeing this right now. Cool. So So let's get into the why. Why are we here? Why Watson Woods Riparian
Riparian.
Riparian Preserve is a rare and unique habitat. And then let's also explain that where it's at and where it's where these little locations are.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other things that our organization has been doing since 1995, the organization was founded in 1990, and since 1995, we've been managing 126 acres of city-owned property through a management lease. I like to say we're in year 29 of our 25-year management lease. So 1995 through 2020, that was the first 25-year term, and we renewed that for a second term through 2045. The area that's Watson Woods Riparian Preserve is basically the entire forested area that's upstream from Watson Lake Reservoir. So if you're driving up Highway 89, as you're driving past all those cottonwoods.
Should I put up this map?
Yeah, if you've got the map.
Okay, yeah, let me go ahead and put up this map so you guys could go ahead and see kind of what he's talking about. Let me get this out of the way.
Yeah.
And I think a little zoom. I was like, how can I zoom this? Anyways, go ahead and keep on talking and talk about what this is.
So basically, on the west side there is Highway 89. It's the yellow stripe along there. The eastern boundary to the right of the red boxed area is basically the Peavine Trail. That's where the railroad used to be. And just on the bottom of the picture, just outside the image there is Sundog Industrial Park. And all the way up at the north end, at the top of the image, is Watson Lake. So there's a total, the forest area there is about 160 acres. We have the larger red boxed area, which is 126 acres. In 1995, the top box that's associated with the lake was owned by not the city of Prescott, but the Chino Valley Irrigation District. So that top box is not currently part of the preserve, and we're working with the city to add that to the preserve because the city now owns it.
How long have they owned it?
So the city's actually owned the lake since 1998. Our first management plan in 1996 said, hey, at such time that it becomes feasible, we should add that to the riparian preserve. Because if you take all those red boxes off there, the riparian forest is one unit, but it was the land ownership that kept it from being all managed together.
And I mean, just to go ahead and go back just a tad bit.
Yeah.
Tell everybody what is a riparian forest.
Yeah. So a simple way to think about riparian is that refers to the habitat that's on the edge of the stream. And so here in Arizona, if you get up on top of the hillside, you look down, you're going to see this ribbon of green in the low spot. And more cases than not, that's the riparian forest. It supports broadleaf deciduous trees like cottonwoods and willows that you're not going to find on the top of the hill because it's too dry. That's where the water is, and that's where those trees can be supported.
And this is important for this waterway for what reason?
Riparian areas are super important for a whole bunch of reasons. They are one of the most biologically productive ecosystems on the planet. So we have lots of diversity. There's a ton of different wildlife in the preserve alone. We've got 350 different species of plants, a lot of those that you're not going to find anywhere else. And then with our wildlife, 75% of our wildlife are dependent on these riparian ecosystems for either all their life or part of their life cycle.
So you were sharing with me there, over there by the hospital has these little, these riparian locations that have filtered the water and released different types of water. I put an image up on here that you shared with me and give a little bit of to the audience what this idea of what you're looking at right now.
So at the riparian preserve, over time, the riparian preserve was impacted mostly by sand and gravel extraction mid-20th century. So big machines taking material out of there. So to get to sand and gravel, you got to take out all the trees and the wildlife goes somewhere else as well. So this is a series of photographs documenting the change over time from restoration work that we performed between 2009 and 2013. So the images actually go all the way to 2022, but the top image is 2009, immediately after we built the project. So there's a lot of bare dirt out on the floodplain. Granite Creek is kind of bounded by those two light colored stripes, which are erosion control cloth. And in that cloth, we had native grass seed, and then we planted willows. In the second image down is the end of the first growing season. So you can see some stuff starting to come in on the floodplain, and both sides of the creek have this fur of willows growing up. It's almost this fuzz. And then the third picture is 3 years down the line at the end of our monitoring period. You can see almost no bare dirt, and cottonwoods and willows are starting to grow in. And then the very bottom picture is 2022. So what is that, 13 years after the project was implemented. The cottonwoods are getting so big, you almost can't see the horizon there.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I mean, to be kind of like, on one side of the fence is like, life is life, but at the same time to really, help dictate what happens downriver. And that is what ends up happening because of just a little bit of just nurturing and caring,
right,
for something that people probably just like, oh, who cares?
Yeah.
And once again, we were talking before this, and I was saying that, I love playing in the creeks until I realized a lot of things that were happening. And as you were trying to say earlier, non-useful or whatever fancy way of saying polluted.
Yeah.
Started acknowledging that. And as of right now, there's not much that the city can do without, getting that stuff like running into everything that runs on the streets runs into our creeks.
Correct.
Yeah. And so that right there alone is like the only way to go ahead and correct that is either A, move the creek, or B, remove Prescott, Arizona. And obviously we've been here for a very long time, and it'd be kind of hard to go ahead and do that. So what can we do to help prevent this stuff? And how can we go ahead and, as a community, be a part of what you got going on?
Yeah. Well, prevention is, I think, educating folks that we have polluted waters. We met with a councilman the other day, and he was just having a hard time wrapping his head around how does little old Prescott, Arizona have polluted water? So the type of pollution that we have is called non-point source pollution. Comes off my roof, comes out of your dog. We're all part of the reason, and all the pavement and all our rooftops, how we've altered the ecosystem is really the culprit there. And us being part of that as well. So it's E. coli bacteria that's the big culprit in our watershed. And what happens is that accumulates in the environment. And then when we get rains, which anybody who's been around for a while knows that when it rains, sometimes it really rains. And it just flushes all that off the streets into the creeks. And so it gets real concentrated there. We have very few filters along the edges of the creeks to kind of filter out those pollutants before they get in the water. But Watson Woods Riparian Preserve, in its restored state, it's kind of like this great big sponge that's a filter for all those pollutants. So as the water flows through the preserve and spreads out into all the vegetation that's there, it slows down before it gets to Watson Lake, and those pollutants get detained and filtered out by plants and soils and all those sorts of things.
Dude, that is so cool. I mean, nature does what it does, and that's what's crazy. There was like a conversation that was going on because of the mines that were getting put up there by up Senator Highway. And one of the things is, somebody says, dude, this could, damage our waterways some way, somehow. And a guy got on there and was like, don't you know your science? And I'm like, science. But what I see as not even going into that route is like, what, no matter what, we are going to impact something. And something's always going to go ahead and be a factor. And the end result is going to be like, oh, wait, I probably should have thought about that before.
Yeah, I think in today's world, there are a lot of collateral effects that we don't think through all the way. And one of the conversations, what we're proposing for Watson Woods is to protect it forever. So our initiative with the Watson Woods Riparian Preserve, we're calling it Forever Preserved. We have a proposal that we've been working on with city staff. We'll be in front of city council in May to really provide them with an update and ask them for input. But essentially what we're asking them to do is donate what's called a conservation easement. That's a voluntary legal tool that the city places on the property that ensures the conservation values are protected for all time going forward. Forever. In perpetuity is the legal term that we're using for that.
And then this is like really, really looking towards the future in order for
Yeah.
you know, the waters in our area to go ahead and stay where they're at.
Yeah.
You know,
And hopefully get better. That's the game plan.
so as of right now, this is literally the third question, and I'm so happy I'm almost on freaking point. What steps are needed to get the approval from the city?
Yeah. So our next step is to be in front of City Council. We will present the project, give them an update. They have not had a formal update at a council meeting since, I want to say, about a year ago. And we've got a couple of steps that we need to take. Is we will bring them sort of a draft package. It won't be complete in May, but it'll be complete enough that they can understand the big picture. So we're going to ask them to hear what we have to say, describe the process. We'll present the pros and cons of doing this versus not doing this, and ask them for guidance. Once they give us guidance, the ideal thing is that they respond, they say, this is great. Bring it, put it together, bring it back for us to approve. So as quickly as possible, we'll get back in front of council with a draft packet that's got everything in it. And we're asking them at that point to approve the conservation easement in draft form. Then we've got some other reports that we have to incorporate that into, take it up to the federal government who is running our program, or they kind of oversee the program that we have them approve everything in draft form, and then we'll bring it back to council for a final approval where the conservation easement actually gets executed. Everybody signs on the dotted line, and then it is so. And so then we'll have the assurance that not only will the preserve be forever preserved, but that kickstarts a bunch of funding that allows us to do more restoration work, like what we were seeing in the pictures. And part of that funding we have to set aside for long-term management. So it will be a City of Prescott piece of property that has a partner to manage that property, to improve water conditions and recreational access, all those sorts of things. And then there's funding to manage it for all time going forward. Point at another city property that's got that type of arrangement.
Well, I mean, it doesn't seem like in that location that you're asking for, there's a lot of development going on in there, but there seems like a lot of construction scenarios in that little vicinity right there that you know, I don't even know what's going on in that little location, but it's obviously the industrial location right next to our waterways.
Well, yeah, it's
you know,
it's an interesting spot because we got the highway, we've got an industrial park, and we have the wastewater treatment plant, which is in the process of being decommissioned. But we've also got the transfer station, and so right around Watson Lake, right around the Dells and Watson Woods Riparian Preserve, there's a lot of stuff that seems like, you know, how do these two things fit together? And that's just the neighborhood. And so we're doing good stuff in the Riparian Preserve that has an eye toward, you know, how do we improve our community on all these different levels, economic, recreational, ecological, that benefit us as a community? And how do we set that up for the long term? Watson Woods Riparian Preserve is part of the proposed regional park that's being planned with Glassford Hill and Granite Dells and Watson Lake. All those things kind of fit together as part of the regional park. And, you know, bald eagles are nesting at the preserve this year, which is pretty exciting up at the lake end. They've never been documented doing that before. Those are things that people will come to this community to see. And when they come to this community, they'll, you know, hire a hotel room for the night. They'll go out to eat. Maybe they'll go shopping at, you know, one of our outdoor outfitters or buy a new pair of binoculars. That's all good for our community. And the fact that we have this in our community, a lot of Arizona is dry and doesn't have these type of resources. So we've got a unique situation here. It's a real opportunity for Prescott.
Pretty insane.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Let's go ahead and tell everybody what's the call to action. What is the next steps? What can we do as a community to help out?
Yeah. So we're here talking to you and talking to you because we need the community's help to bring this across the finish line and make it happen. We're trying to get the word out so that the community knows what we're doing, why we're doing it, what the benefits are going to be. And we're asking folks to take direct action in a couple of different ways. Right now, if you go to our website at prescottcreeks.org and you click on the wood duck right below the Granite Creek cleanup banner, that'll take you to a page that has a variety of different ways that folks can get involved. We're asking folks in the community to send a message to city council and city officials that lets them know how they feel about preserving Watson Woods Riparian Preserve forever, and specifically asking them to support the conservation easement. Council has been getting those letters. We've got a template up there that you can cut paste, or if you want to write your own message, that's great too. So that lets council know that people out there in the community support this. And then if folks are willing to attend the council study session on May 28th, that's a Tuesday, at 1 p.m. in City Hall downtown.
Is that this flyer right here?
Yeah, it's at the very bottom of that.
Okay.
Is we've got the date and the location there. And that's on our website as well at the Forever Ever Preserved page. But we're looking to pack the room and get everybody wearing, a Forever Preserved button so that as we're presenting to council can see that the community cares about this and wants to see it happen. So far, our meetings with council have been really encouraging. They've been asking lots of great questions. And I think the question that keeps coming up is, what's the downside of doing this? How's this going to come back and bite us in the rear?
Only if you want to know, we can go ahead and look into the future.
Yeah. So we don't know, but I think from where Prescott Creeks sits, we think everybody wins with this proposal. I think the downside is if we don't take action, there are millions of dollars that could come to the city to manage water resources and city property that will go somewhere else, and we'll miss out.
Well, with that being said, you guys better get on it and go to this website right here, right now. Take a screenshot and then make sure that you go like and follow and see if you go ahead and be a part of it. Without further ado, man, I got things to do. You got things to do. He's saving things over here, guys. So with that being said, peace, love, and happiness. Let it not be war. And remember, love always wins. We'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.